I'm like, I'm about to get fired. And it was like watching a movie of yourself. Like you ever kind of feel like you're in third person, and it was like, am I getting fired? And she was like, yes. I'm like, oh, thank God. And she was like, what? It felt like survival to get to Friday and then cram in like a day and a half of fun, which was mostly like drinking and partying. And then it was like, okay, like Monday morning's coming. This is the worst feeling ever. I think it's because joy is the destination and we lose track of that. You don't have to wait for the experience to create the reaction. You become that person. You live as that person. You practice feeling that way so that you've already arrived at the station.
I think we can oftentimes mistake the tool itself for like the way. Like breath work is, let's call it a hammer. You can do a lot with the hammer, but sometimes you need a screwdriver.
Yeah. Man, I put so much pressure on myself to like, over the years just fit into certain things that I thought I should be, rather than like find the moments where you don't doubt.
This is The Way You Lead, a show for the new era of leaders who are ready to rise. I'm Joshua Church, and every week we explore how to lead from the inside out with strength, heart, and authenticity. Through stories, strategies, and conversations with embodied leaders, you'll gain what you need to lead yourself and others in today's changing world. The way you lead matters, and now is the time to step up.
All right, man. It's always fun to take deep breaths with other breathers.
People notice.
People notice.
Like if you have like a massage or something and they say, take it, they're like, whoa, that was really good. Like you knew what you were doing with that.
I mean, I feel like it should be like a LinkedIn like skill, breathing.
Honestly. Or like a dating profile prompt where like you have to prove that you can take 3 deep breaths and not lose your mind.
That'd be good. That is like the intake form is like you have to.
I want to know that more than I want to know a lot of the things that are on there.
So true though. That's so funny.
Like, yeah, great. You like enjoy hikes, all that. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. But can you self-regulate? Like, do you know how to in real time like bring yourself back to the moment?
All right.
How do we figure that out?
Maybe you have to like take a video of you taking 3 deep breaths, and then you can tell from that assessment, are they a vertical breather, diaphragm engaged?
I got a really fun thing that you'll enjoy. There's a company pop-up in LA that does speed dating in ice baths.
That's cool. I think I've seen that. Was that in,
they probably had your tubs, actually.
They actually did use our tubs.
I remember it now. I'm piecing it together.
There was an LA Times article about it or something like that. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, really get to know somebody like in the midst of a cathartic experience.
Yeah, it's funny.
Like
I feel like people are craving more of that type of interaction and meeting people in different and new ways. I mean, you're big in the space here, especially in the San Diego community. Have you seen that as well?
100%. I mean, in an increasingly digital and artificial intelligence world where you kind of interface with so much technology now, and you don't even know now what is real in that technology space. I just think everything is an oscillation, right? Like we are always coming back into balance with things. And I don't think no technology is the answer, but I think people are just feeling inundated. I think they're feeling like, yes, just being human with other humans. Like I spoke to a lady today who's planning an event where there's no phones, no watches, no nothing. Nobody uses their real names and you're not even allowed to run. If you got to go somewhere, you have to skip to get there. So like all these like cool rules, you know what I mean? Of like almost just making it like being a kid at camp again. And people are recognizing, I was just also raising JP Morgan's putting in like a $300 million facility in Manhattan that's not a part of the business. It's just health and wellness focus. It's got like open air spaces and sunlight and all this kind of stuff. So
are they doing that for their employees or just
exactly?
Like, for their employees.
Yeah. And I think it's a badge of pride for a lot of companies now, right? Like culture is not just about like kick-ass business anymore. It's about really like integrating wellness and things where people can get not just a one thing, but also have some skills and some tools where they're better communicators, they're more patient. And if you look at the bottom line of healthcare within the business, like it makes sense on every level. It's like, I think we're in a really cool time of the emphasis is switching to holistic health and empowering people to be healthier. And community is just an amplifier of all that. So
it's so true. I like the skipping around. It's like the things that bring us back to kids. And we just went, I know we missed you, but we went and played laser tag just this past weekend.
I love that.
It was so much fun. It was
bet.
Just a group of like 30-year-olds sprinting around and like we got getting a little competitive, and then there was one game we played where it was just us versus us. There was 15 of us or 14 of us. It was 7-on-7, and then we played another game mixed in with some other kids and their parents, and then the last game we played was us 14 versus another 14. We won every game, obviously,
yeah.
But it was so funny. It was like the inner kid in you comes out and gets competitive, and like everybody's dripping sweat.
It's so funny, man. Like I've been in San Diego a long time now, and I've run in a lot of different communities, and it took me a while to kind of find my people and my community, but I think one of the funniest things is I was always searching for spirituality in like yoga communities, and and you can definitely find it there. And I'm not saying that some of that isn't present, but I think the most spiritual thing that I do is actually playing roller hockey with a bunch of fully grown men, and like it's just knocking a puck around. It's a total kids game. It's like, I mean, we're all complaining about our backs at this point, whatever. But like when you win, people like we care, I mean? If we hoist the trophy at the end, we care. And then just the conversations of like sitting in the back of a like somebody's pickup truck, like doing Coors Lights after the game, feels wonderfully spiritual. And so it's just, and I've had to lean into that, of like being really, that's who I am, like bringing that part of myself to because I think we can try a little bit too hard sometimes, right? Like to wear the hats or to wear the outfits that are needed to be in those circles, or like I don't need my mala beads to be spiritual. Imagine that. Yeah,
that's so good. I think you're hitting on something really key there, which is like it can be so, it can feel so serious and so heavy and so life or death in the spiritual space when you're doing this deep work and this inner work. And of course there's time and place for that when you really got to dive in. But I think that's something that you and I have really connected well over, and why we became friends too, is because there's also this kind of lightness too that I aim to at least bring, that's like, this can be fun too. And yes, the interaction and connection from playing hockey or playing basketball with your friends, or the simple moments of skipping, like that is the point. And like that can be the most spiritual thing as well, in addition to diving deeper in some of these tools like breath work and cold immersion and yoga and all the stuff that that both of us do.
Yeah, I think it's funny, like if you look at least some of my favorite spiritual teachers, like whether it's the yogis or Dispenza or Ram Dass, I think many of them, like even especially the yogis, like if you go to India, you find the most enlightened beings, right? The ones who can levitate and their stories of miracles. They're like fat, jolly people. They're not like these like Lululemon ambassador, like, super fit. And there's nothing wrong with being super fit. It's great. But it's like there's a playfulness, right? There's a childlikeness to most of the, like Ram Dass is the perfect example, right? Like when he was stuck in a wheelchair, he used to tell wheelchair jokes like all the time. I remember watching a seminar. I was like, the worst part of this is like nobody can see my great ass, It's like, and that was so him, because like he would deliver this profound speech and then say something crude and just hilarious, like
and why do you think that is? Like if we peel that back a little bit, of like some of the most spiritual or enlightened people or happy people, let's say, are the most playful or simple or don't take things too seriously. Like what do you think about that?
I think it's because joy is the destination and we lose track of that, right? Like I think one of the key tenets of Dispenza's work is like you don't have to wait for the experience to create the reaction. You become that person, you live as that person, you practice feeling that way, so that you've already arrived at the station, right? This is quantum mechanics 101. It's like you collapse the paradigm and almost the fallacy of cause and effect, which is we have to work a certain amount of time, it takes a certain amount of energy, and then we get there, and then we get to feel what we want to feel, which is why so many people that come in retreats like midlife crisis mode, because they've put so much of themselves into, well, once I get X, Y, and Z, partner, house, whatever, then I'll feel fulfilled and I'll feel happy. Where if you can really just practice being that. And so these enlightened people, they recognize that they really don't need anything outside of themselves, but they've spent a lot of time cultivating that environment through things like breath work and meditation and challenging themselves, right? You need that dichotomy. I do believe that. And if you choose challenge on your own terms, then the scales of life sort of balance for you. You know what I mean?
So good. Yeah. The difference between conditional happiness of like, when this happens, then I will be, or like if this thing happens, then I will feel this way, which I feel like is most people, or
it's just what we're taught.
It's what we're taught. Yeah, I think it's our hardwiring.
It's the fallacy of the three-dimensional five senses experience, because most of this all operates under those rules.
Yeah,
you work, then you get money, then you get the thing, and it's like And we have to buy into that to some degree, right? It's what made us civilized, right? It took us out of like lawlessness to like, oh, now we have houses and infrastructure. There's balance of who's doing work while others are resting. And, you know, like that is a part of it for sure. But it's not all there is.
Yeah.
Have one foot in each.
Yeah,
you know?
that's good. Feet on the ground, head in the clouds.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a like living, like I tried a monastic sort of lifestyle for a while. I was getting up at like 4 a.m. and meditating I'd have like this 6-hour morning routine of like hours of meditation, cold plunge, journal. And I was like exhausted by like 10:30 and I couldn't do anything else. Like I was just, and it was a proud moment of like knowing that I could do it, but it wasn't the answer for me, you know?
Right. Cause then, and then I've done the same thing. And then I start to like almost despise that thing. I'm just like, oh, like I got to go do this. It's like
checking it off the list.
Checking off the list. It's like, wait, isn't that kind of contrary to the point? Like, shouldn't you be doing these things because it makes you feel good,
with
like
reverence, like you feel like it's special and you want to invest in it. And I've had 20-30 minute meditations that were way deeper and more powerful than those 2 to 3 hour sessions because I knew I was just locked in for that and didn't have to get me somewhere. It didn't have to be a cause and effect kind of thing. I'm curious about you because like I've seen you do like triathlon training and all that kind of stuff. Like I always think there's a balance point between effort and ease or like intention and surrender. Like what kind of does that equation look like for you? Or like how do you feel like you find that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think they both exist and they both exist at the same time too. And for example, like just yesterday, it was at the end of my workout. I've been doing assault bike training. So like nasal breathing only on the assault bike.
Is this for your Everest?
Yeah. For Everest Base Camp and just general, just cardio and fitness.
Just badassery.
And improving my CO2 tolerance and all that. And so it's amazing how quickly you see the shifts happen with just the nasal breathing. And at first, the first couple times, like 2 minutes on there would feel like, I mean, I'm suffocating, right? And then now we're up to 9-10 minutes at a time and increasing each minute, you're increasing the effort level and your and the cadence on the bike. And so and just legs only, so no hands. So keeping either shoulders, like I have to keep my shoulders back, otherwise my trainer will give me the stick where I have to have my arms up like that so I can keep the posture open and really make sure that I'm working properly and efficiently. And it's amazing to see how it's gone. But like in those moments, like those moments are digs. Like when I'm rounding that corner, it's like when I round the corner, it's actually easier because I'm like, all right, we're almost there. But like that like back half couple minutes where you just like, it is a lot of effort, but also it's like, that's where I choose to surrender the most. That's where I'm just like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Like I come back to different experiences I've had in Iceland or in the cold, and just like I'm a part of nature, experiencing nature. Like this is a lot of effort, but it's also really effortless because it's just me being me, and like I'm just going to surrender to this moment, embrace it fully, like embrace the entirety of this for however long this is going to be. And through that, then like you start to kind of warp the time space continuum, right? Like time starts to condense in ways. I think you learn that in the cold too. But so I think and the cold is a great teacher for that too, that combination of like effort and ease. Like at some extent it's like the easiest thing that you can do of just being present and breathing. Like that's all you need to do. You do that, then everything else, but it takes effort to get there.
Agreed.
What do you think?
Yeah, I it's probably the question I pose to myself the most, right? And I think what's helped me a lot is, as somebody who dealt with a lot of like anxiety or just not really feeling like I ever fully fit in. Like I wasn't not popular in high school, but I didn't really wasn't fully in the partying crowd, wasn't fully in the athlete crowd. I lost touch with people really easily after high school. Like I've never like felt like the puzzle piece fully fit or a round peg in a square hole kind of thing. And then only within just like the last couple of years, you know, the whole hockey story of like, you know, recognizing that as being deeply spiritual for me and sort of I call it like bringing all the parts of myself to the party, has allowed me to embrace that. Yes, I love discipline and motivation and pushing myself and challenging myself. And like after a big event or just on like a Saturday, a lazy Saturday, like if I'm going to like eat some indulgent food and like chill out on the couch or like pass out for an hour, that I do that with the same reverence, with the same level of commitment that I do all of the other hard stuff. So I'm not doubting myself. I think it's the doubt component for me. It's like, then you don't know, like, it's like gas and the brake at the same time. Like, you don't fully know, like, am I on or am I off?
Right.
And as an entrepreneur, like a solopreneur for most of that time, like, it's hard to switch that part of yourself off, right? Because you're always like, could this be the idea? Could this be the moment? But it's like, you really have to separate, for a while and be like, okay with not being constantly productive. Because then it's like, you don't get great results out of anything. No. You just get mediocre out of everything,
Yeah, totally. I mean, we're running a marathon here, right? Like, you got to be built for the marathon.
Yeah.
I'm curious because you've been in the space for a while, right? And you've seen it evolve. How long have you been in San Diego for?
7 years.
7 years, okay. Yeah. And before that, you were
3 years of living in New York, in and around New York, where I was a yoga teacher, leaving corporate life. So the entrepreneur journey has been about 10 years,
right? Okay. And like, I want to kind of unpack some of your origin story, because I know I've gathered pieces here and there, and I find it really fascinating. Especially your, getting your dream job and going corporate, and then having that unwind, and then taking the entrepreneurial plunge. So like kind of, you were saying back in high school, you kind of felt like wasn't really fitting here or there,
and that was corporate life, right?
And that was corporate life, right.
It's like a perfect segue.
So after high school, what, like, take me through what happened after high school?
Yeah, so I left, I went to St. John. Well, I went to one college up in Connecticut that did not work out well, and I was partying and not like really invested in my major. I didn't care. I didn't show up to classes. So I came home, worked in restaurants for a year, which was really good, because I was like, I definitely don't want to do this long term. It was hard hours, not a lot of money, and it was still the party culture. So I was sort of like a purgatorially figuring out like how to transition out of that. And then when I went to St. John's, it felt like, okay, this is the last shot. Like, you got to really figure out what you want to do, or you're going to be graduating at like 25, you're going to be behind, all this kind of stuff. And I'd always loved sports. I'd always loved the New York media market. Was so fun. Talk radio, so many teams, so much of the city can be wrapped around, like how the Knicks are doing or how the Jets are doing. And so I was like, I really feel like going into journalism and being in that space would be super fun. So picked that as my major, graduated with like a 3.75. So I did turn the ship around. Nice. And actually became good at school for the first time ever really in my life.
And were you like health and wellness minded or spiritual at this point, or just
always an athlete? Always loved working out, but meditation was not on my radar. Like, never picked up books on spirituality or anything like that. And really, it was going into corporate was, again, like that round peg square hole thing. So like, I got to this job. I was working for Cablevision, so they had this network called MSG Varsity, which was kind of taking a high level approach to high school sports. And at the time, like, I worked in New Jersey, so like I covered like Kyrie Irving, like Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Karl Anthony Towns, Jabril Peppers, like all these guys that were like going on to these great. So I got to watch them in high school, and it was amazing. I mean, New Jersey high school sports is pretty high level, and so it was a cool trial by fire. It was an entry level job, but by the time I was kind of at my peak, I was managing like a team of people, and it was like it was pretty cool. And then the company went public, and the CEO was kind of like, this isn't really making money. Like, I don't know why we're investing so much into this. So they cut the staff in half. I got laid off and went back into the job market. And I got picked up by Al Jazeera, was about to work on a sports show. It was like really cool. We were doing like outside the lines kind of stuff, like, really deep dive stories. And I was like, this is amazing. It's like journalism in the sports space. CEO changed, and they literally, we just filmed our pilot actually with a guy named Michael Eaves, who's now like one of the anchors on Sports Center. I see him all the time. We had this great team, and then boom,
they
like,
cut it.
Gone again. So I'm like, all right, strike two, like back to the drawing board. Now I'm like covering like, the Middle East conflict. I'm covering the Ebola virus, and I'm like, this is not fun. So then this guy comes along and says, hey, like, I'm part of Bleacher Report, this new startup. We're going to be, all like live to tape on like an app, and it's like really fun. It's a big production studio. You'll get to be on the NFL team. You get to watch football all day. I mean, sold me. I took a big pay cut, but I was like, at least I'm back in my lane, doing what I want to do. Get to the job. He's nowhere to be found. The guy that hired me, like, I literally only saw him like 3 more times after that, and found out that like the guy who now I'm working under wanted that guy's job. So it's this really messy like political landscape of like, he's trying to basically make a bad example of me to prove that this guy did a bad job hiring. Gotcha. So it was just a really messy, and it was a startup. So it had all these startup problems where like, we were working a lot of freelancers, people that weren't really invested. So long story short, I was miserable at that job, and I just stopped caring. I just really did. I would wake up in the morning, I would literally curse. That was the first thing I did every day. Like I would just yell like just every morning.
Did you have some Sunday scaries before Monday?
100%. It felt like survival to get to Friday, and then cram in like a day and a half of fun, which was mostly like drinking and partying. And then it was like, okay, like Monday morning's coming. This is the worst feeling ever. And so, I mean, I was starting to like not care, work suffered, and I got marched into HR on a Thursday, and I was like, I know what's coming. I'm like, I'm about to get fired. And it was like watching a movie of yourself. Like you ever kind of feel like you're in third person? And it was like HR was like Charlie Brown. It was like what, and I was like, and I kind of zapped back in, and I was like, am I getting fired? And she was like, yes. And I'm like, so I don't have to come to work tomorrow? She's like, yes. I'm like, oh, thank God. And she was like, what? And I was like, I can't do this job anymore. I'm like, I did. And I probably could have like tried to sue them or something. And I just didn't care, man. I was just so like, I'm out of here. Like I get to be out of here. And it was like clean slate, it was a step back. And, we talked a little bit before this about kind of the heart-centered decision-making process. And that's what I did. I just was like, I peeled it back to yoga and hockey. And those were the only two things I was actually enjoying doing anymore. And yoga just felt like there was something more. Like it felt like there was something beneath just what got me into it, which was the physical layer. But I was starting to get interested in meditation. I was getting interested in metaphysics. I was watching different shows now. It was starting to shift the whole of my life. And so I just dove in. I went to 500 straight hours. I did my 200, 300 back to back, and then just jumped into the New York teaching scene, which is wild. Like, I mean, there's contortionist people, there's influencers, there's all this stuff. And there was just little old me. And I don't know, man, I hit the right place at the right time, and my heart was in the right place. So all of a sudden I was teaching classes, I was teaching privates. I got invited out to the Hamptons to go teach classes out there. I had like Jennifer Lopez was in one of my classes, like the Real Housewives were coming to my classes. Like it was a wild transition, and it wasn't a sustainable like thing to teach as much as you need to make a living. And that's how retreat started. It was just like, I want to take a break for myself and really get out for a little while. And I had no website, I had no plan. I just would like walk into class and be like, hey, I'm going to go to Costa Rica. Does anybody want to come? And people were like, yeah, I'll go do that. You know what I mean? And it was like, that was it. That's how it all started. And then it was Bali and a couple other international places. And then the inspiration to move here came on one of those trips. And then I got here and said, how do I make retreats more accessible? How do I do them more often? How do I sort of shift out of teaching full-time to doing that full-time? So that's been,
so good. I have so many questions on that. Firstly, how many retreats do you think you've done? And if you had to count.
I just kind of added up, and I think it's over 70 at this point.
Over 70 retreats you've facilitated.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. I feel like there's probably few people on the planet that have
We're playing at a pretty fast clip.
Yeah.
Even like the Dispenzas and the Deepak Chopras, they're doing like maybe 6 a year at most. And at my peak, I did like 11 in 1 year.
Yeah, wow. That's incredible.
2 in a month one time. Like, because one just sold out, and we were like, all right, let's just do another one,
I think there's something really fascinating and inspiring about kind of the organic nature of your entrepreneurial journey. And like, I feel like you're someone that's really followed the breadcrumbs, if you will, of like, okay, getting centered in the heart space of like, what feels like the right next step. Okay, yoga, let me focus on yoga. Let me go get my yoga teacher training. Okay, let me do classes. Okay, let me do a retreat. Okay, cool, let me do more retreats. You know what I mean? There's kind of that like sequential and progressional sequence there that I think is really inspiring, and I think really insightful for a lot of people out there, because it can be daunting oftentimes to be like, all right, I'm going to start a business. What am I going to do? And try to have and see that big picture. Like, even though you're at step 1 to try to see what is that level 10 picture? It's like, well, why don't you just focus on what do I got to do to get to level 2?
Guilty of that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. But have you felt that that's been a thread for you of kind of more of an organic step-by-step unfolding for where you're at?
With oscillations of moving away from that, right? Because you do the analytical part of yourself and the part that has to sustain, right? Like, you've got to pay your bills, and you've got to be able to stand up for yourself as a member of society to be able to, just exist. And so I know that I've gotten off the track of that heart-centered space, and this is a revolution and a renaissance that I'm currently going through, right? We're recognizing that all these retreats are starting to lose their luster to me, and I'm not able to really connect with people in the way that I want to, because I have an infrastructure of like a team, and I'm doing like website and social media and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, like even there's that deep breath I just took is what I feel like all the time. And I'm like finishing one retreat and then all of us like already peeking over the mountain to see like, well, now I have to do the next one. And so that's just a sign, right? Like it's okay. Like how do I shift now to really coming back to that space of really how does it feel rather than trying to figure out all the steps. And we just did a book club with the book, The Surrender Experiment.
Oh yeah.
And
my absolute favorite.
I mean, it's like my 4th or 5th time. It's probably my favorite book because every time I read it, I'm just like, oh, right. You do the thing that you love the most, and then you share that with people and you surrender the outcome because all the stuff that you're worrying about is going to take care of itself. And every time the universe has allowed me to kind of relearn that message, all the things that I'm always worried or staying up thinking about are always being taken care of.
That's so good. What does it mean to you to be a heart-centered entrepreneur?
I think it's really having some kind of practice of just checking in with yourself. I mean, meditation, breath work, like, kind of the ways that we connected are 2 of my favorite ways to do that. But I think for people who just, our world is so filled with distraction and inundation onto our minds. I mean, I've heard it said that like your attention span is now the commodity that's most lusted after by companies, organizations, whatever. And I just think taking time, whether it's out in nature, hiking, being with your dogs, being with loved ones in spaces where you're not distracted, but you're really present, allows us to tap into that space more. So for me, it just means, balancing. Yes, I have money and all these things that we've got to deal with and we've got to make sure are taken care of. And are you creating spaces for yourself to, like we were talking about, finding joy, to be playful, to really tap into more of the intuitive parts of yourself, because then those answers will be there. So for me, it's making sure that there's time in community, there's time for play, there's, just straight up downtime, like chill time, like all that kind of stuff. And then you are coming from that place, I think, more often than not.
That's good. Yeah, those check-ins are having intentional, comes down to intentionality.
Yeah. I think, like what you said about bending time, like for me, if I'm with somebody or if I'm doing a deep meditation or sometimes in the cold plunge, like time seems to really dissipate. Like the construct goes away. And I always tell people, like, put a pin in those things, right? Because if you're with somebody that makes you feel that way, or if you're doing something like hockey, I like look up and I don't even know how much time is left half the time because I'm just so in it. Do more of those things. Like, I think it's just the greatest litmus test of like, that's going to get you where you need to
so
go.
Good.
Surfing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right?
Art,
like,
drawing, whatever it might be. I think that's so good and such key advice to follow those the natural abilities and the things that put you into that flow state and the things that bend time, because there's some sort of energetic alignment there. And it's funny because it's different for everybody.
Hell yeah.
And I think that's such a big clue, especially if someone's not sure about like, what do I want to do or what's next, or, I want more, but I'm not sure what more looks like. It's like the answers are right there in front of you. At least the next step is, and who knows where that leads.
Yeah. And some people will say to me sometimes like, oh, like, I don't have any of those things. Right. And I think in fairness, like some people do get so overwhelmed and so distracted that it does take time to figure that out. But if you don't just like clear your schedule for a little bit here and there, and you don't just spend time without your phone and without distractions of other things telling you how to think, well, then you're never going to be able to just tap back into those things. Right. So that's why retreats became a passion of mine, because I just felt like, an hour-long yoga class was great. And maybe it impacts somebody's day or makes their week or whatever, but to fully remove somebody from their day-to-day, right? To really get them off all the timelines and all the algorithms of their life, just to be for a little bit, right? Is where that stuff will bubble to the surface. Absolutely. But you need to clear it. You have to.
Yeah. That's why I fell in love with the retreat format as well, because it's like that container for what it is when someone, even just signing up for a retreat, but then actually it's like you get on that plane or you get into the car and you pull up, like the energy shift in the container. It's like the work is already started. The work starts when you commit to it, for sure. Yeah. But then it's like you said, just showing up and being, and simple practices and tools and time away, because then you can really let certain things land or have things come through, insights come through, clarity come through, to then be able to bring back and integrate, which is where the real work is.
And if you look at it neurologically, like, you can really see quite plainly that when the prefrontal cortex is firing and you're thinking and analyzing and doing all this stuff, which is an amazing thing that your brain can do, it just doesn't leave the space for the intuitive parts of the limbic brain to come online, right? And we know enough about this now that it's not conjecture, it's not woo-woo, it's not like meditation is like this foreign thing that like might or might not help. I mean, it's really inherently, you know, our nature is to have downtime, is to have time to just full stop. I always get like, the fun thing is when the retreat starts, I always get to say to people like, I can promise you the low end is a biological upgrade. It's like just by not being on your phone and not being in your day-to-day and breathing a bit and moving your body, and we're going to get out in the sun and we're going to eat really good food. I'm like, I get to promise you that you will at least leave biologically better than you get here. And then my goal is always, let's let this transform your life.
Yeah.
You know, so I want that for everybody.
Right. And that's what I want to ask you about. Like, how do you focus? Because I think that there's a lack of focus in a lot of retreats or experiences with integration.
Yeah.
And with like, it's easy to go away and have a, you know, a romantic getaway or a time, and then come back and be riding high for a day, a week, a month, maybe. And then like right back into it. Yeah. How do you approach that? How do you think about that?
Well, it's a really good question, because that's the focus shift that I'm actually currently going through. Is, you know, the model that I sort of built was like, okay, if I do 8 to 10 retreats a year, you know, I can really sustain myself as like a quote unquote business owner, because all the numbers make sense.
Right.
And then what I was noticing is like, we'd have like a group chat, you know, and like for 2 weeks it'd be hot and heavy, and everybody's like, oh, I'm meditating every day and I'm eating different, all this kind of stuff. And then just because again, I'm peeking over to look at the next retreat, I just can't give to people in the way that I want to. So I'm shifting now into really wanting to do less events, make them even a little bit longer, a little bit more comprehensive, and have support before and after, right?
Yeah,
where I can
like
really help ramp people up to it, and then also the integration, because it's hard. I mean, when people go back to their, I mean, I've had great stories of people, you know, who, I had a lady with 5 kids come on a retreat one time, and she messaged me and was like, I've been locking myself in my Honda Odyssey in the garage in the morning to do my meditation, because that's the only way I can get it done. But like, that was the level of commitment,
I love it,
you know, she had. And that was so cool to see. But yeah, it's like all these like oscillations, like I said, you know, you kind of do something and then you do it a lot, and then you kind of like have to figure out a way to, you know, it's like I use the analogy like a workout feels great, and then it's what makes sitting on the couch afterwards feel great.
Absolutely.
But if you did just the workout for 3, 4, 5 hours, or you just did the couch for 3, it wouldn't feel great, right? So you're always coming into these balances of like, yeah, now 10 retreats a year feels like too much. Like, I think it's time to scale it down and have some other ways to build community and interface with people doing stuff like this, right? This was like literally planted in my brain a few months ago. We did a breathwork session together, and you're like, hey, come do this. I'm like, perfect, because this is the season that I'm in of wanting to be in this medium.
Yeah,
more,
and you're very good in this medium too.
I appreciate that. TV background. And you know what's funny is like being in that TV world, I did do some on-air stuff. So if you're listening, like no amount of effort is ever wasted. You know, if you think you're in a career path right now that doesn't fit or doesn't make sense, that's fine. And I would encourage you to shift your focus into finding more ways to bring joy into your life and more quiet spaces to let that come up. But now, like writing emails or doing stuff like this, I'm like, oh,
I know how to do that.
I was like, oh, that comes from, you know, like what I used to do, like on-air stuff, where I used to direct or produce these things and watch what made like an on-air talent good or not so good, you know? So
nothing is for naught. Nothing is for naught.
For sure.
And I saw that too at Edge, and some of my past experiences that I didn't think would be translate or relate at all, like how much it related and how much it was like also a key towards our success. Like you don't know what, and I think that also can help reframe whatever you're going through now. Even if you're like, this is not it, I don't know what it is, but I know this is not it. It's like, okay, cool. That could be very, very true, but don't write off the whole thing because what if there are elements of this that can help you create it or help you when it comes, whatever that next step is.
I think that's the most impressive thing that I've learned from you is, you know, when I met you, it was like, whoa, there's this guy with this really radical business and he's got this storefront and he does these cool events and oh my God, they're building and scaling and I'm seeing their ads everywhere. And he's like working with Austin Matthews and all these athletes. I'm like, this guy's freaking crushing it, you know? And then to watch you navigate what's happened with the dissolving of that business and your attitude and still doing the breathwork classes and all that stuff. I had to tell you, as much as I was impressed by your business, it's how you're reframing it all and moving of like, yes, that wasn't wasted. I'm learning. I got an MBA. I listened to your podcast about it. I was like, that was so awesome. Like, because I've spent on marketing, I've spent on things and I'm like, holy crap, like, wow, that feels like wasted money. And now in an interviewing process of trying to shift my business, I'm very clear of like what I want because of that. So kudos to you, man.
I appreciate that.
And I've never played at that level financially, so I don't know what that's like, but like, holy crap, it's impressive.
You, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's all stepping stone, and it helps. I mean, it's essential to hold on to that perspective when you're going through the kind of the shifting and the resetting and the reframing of things. You have to hold on to that perspective, and then and it's like, probably like you, I have enough evidence to support those beliefs at this point. And it doesn't take long. And when you have that self-reflective muscle of journaling or checking in or reflecting, like you see it very clearly. It's just like, oh, like this led to this, and without this doesn't happen. Or like this really crappy thing that happened to me, well, look actually what good came from it. So maybe something from this really crappy thing is going to lead to something good. And you collapse those, like the timeline again with being able to see that. And even to the point where in real time, it's just like, okay, like I see why this is happening. Like I can start to get a glimpse of that bigger picture, and it doesn't eliminate the hard work and like the shittiness you have to navigate, and like the heaviness of the situation. Like it doesn't make it any less painful, just makes it more worthwhile.
Something I've been leaning into a lot with the reading of the Surrender Experiment and the main tenet of that book. You know, he's anchored in yoga and Buddhism, and you know, in Buddhism, there's a lot of emphasis on even just dissolving the construct of good and bad, you know, so that you really become momentary. You don't start to think of like, oh, this thing's happening to me and it's so bad. You're always in a constant perpetual state of like, this is just unfolding. And it's my preferences, it's my traumas that are really not allowing me just to experience the fullness of this, right? Ice bath is a perfect example, right? Because the first 30 seconds, your body is telling you that it's the worst thing that's ever happened to it. It's in its entire existence. And then just because you're able to be calm, it literally not much changes from the moment of like physiologically, not much changes, right? But how you feel about it becomes such a monumentally, and then you do them longer and more often, and all of a sudden you start to recognize how silly it is that you even have that reaction, right? So I don't know. I'm curious like what you think about that, if you've been able to kind of just sort of see things come in through the senses and then not have this.
Well, that's the goal, right? That's the practice. That's the practice. And I also love Michael Singer as a teacher. I listen to Michael Singer podcasts on YouTube all the time, or read The Surrender Experiment, Untethered Soul. I mean, all of his books. Living Untethered is really good too.
Yeah, that's our next one in the book club. Next one. If you want to jump in,
I would love to actually. I would love to jump in. And I was just listening to the audiobook of Untethered, Living Untethered, as I was traveling in Colombia, and it was just so beautiful because he puts it so like exactly like you said. It's just like, life is unfolding. Life has always been unfolding long before you were here, and will continuously be unfolding after you're gone.
28 billion years it's been happening, and nothing to do with you, but here you are with all your preferences, and they get your name wrong at Starbucks, and all of a sudden you're having the worst day ever. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's really silly when you kind of break it down, and that's what I love about him is like, it's just very plain and simple. It's like, this is all your preferences, all your stuff, and you have a choice moment to moment of like how you're going to deal with what life is giving you.
And for me, like, we came here to experience, right? It's like we came here to touch all the corners and feel all the emotions, and
can't have one without the other.
Exactly. And so I think that there is something, you know, beautiful. Again, it's always easier said than done, but I mean, like, I really put this to the test, like going through this past experience of winding down the company and losing all that money and having to shut down and dealing with all the shit that we dealt with. Like, it was a great opportunity to like put this to the test of like, okay, like, yeah, this was trying, but like, how can I actually open up to embrace this and surrender to the experience that's unfolding? And
how do you think you're doing?
Surprisingly really good, man.
Are you taking moments to celebrate that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's funny because it's like, it hasn't been that long either, but it feels like a lifetime ago. But you know, the weather is also a really great one. Like Michael Singer always says, it's like, who are you to judge? Like, the weather's perfect. The weather is everything that it can be. Like, it can't be any different. So it's like
literally moving water from one place to another just so life can sustain. But because it's your wedding day, you have such a big problem with it. You know?
Exactly. So
what a fruitless endeavor that feels like, right?
I feel like that is the goal of spirituality. It's like, how can I be present to the unfolding of and be present with the experience of whatever's coming? And that's running through my mind all the time, especially in those like what I call, you know, those ice bath moments that happen outside where it's like maybe I'm in a conversation and the person's starting to talk about something that I can feel in my body is like triggering me in a way, or is saying something that I don't necessarily agree with, or is making me feel uncomfortable. It's like the bell goes off in my mind and it's like, okay, like let me lean into this. Like this is really uncomfortable right now. Or it's like, oh, actually, I don't want you to experience that. And I think as teachers or people that show up and serve other people, this happens a lot because our students or the people that we work with can trigger us. It's like, oh, is this person's not getting are they getting the value from this? Like, are they getting the value from the retreat? Or like, and what I'm saying landing, or this person's distracted, or they're not, you know, I'm triggering them. It's like, okay, like let me just like, let me be present to that and breathe with that.
And normally like what you're stewing over and how you're like, Singer uses the driving analogy, which I think is one of the most wonderfully fertile places to practice spirituality, because you know you're in motion, so you're in a sympathetic state, you're in a heightened kind of fight or flight because you have to be paying attention at that level because it's a literally life-threatening thing, right? So, but you know, he's like, you know, you're going 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, somebody's going 5 miles an hour under, and you're just letting it ruin your day when they're just in there listening to Jimmy Buffett, like having a great day, you know, like has nothing to do with you. It's all how you're kind of allowing it to. And I don't know, recently, and I'm sure you're doing some of this, it's like, how can we even, I think step one is the notice and not let it affect. And then step two, which is probably the lifelong journey, is like, how can you even just reframe it as like an opportunity, right? Like, this is building me up. This is because you're going to build another company and it's going to be successful and it's going to make money and you're going to live your dreams. Like, that's who you are. Like, I know that about you. And in the moment, it's like, how do I do that?
Totally. Totally.
How do I not grasp at straws and default and, you know, all those things?
And sometimes what I found, one of the things that was key, two things that come to mind that were really key with that. One is being around the right people and the right inputs, the right algorithm, so to speak.
And you're using like just the feeling of it, right?
Absolutely. And surrounding yourself with conversations like this that remind you that bigger perspective, or to have the people there that you can let it all out in front of and not be ashamed or afraid or judged. And so like being around the right people that can support you, huge. And then also like, it's all about like your scope of your time horizon of what you're focused on. Like sometimes you have to have a shorter scope of time where it's just like, I gotta just get through the day today. Or like sometimes, as I shared in that podcast, like I gotta make it to lunch because I've got 3 stacked, very scary, brutal meetings that I have to lay off 2 people and then have this tough investor meeting or this supplier meeting. Like I just got to get to lunch. Okay, I got to lunch now. Let me get to dinner. It's like sometimes I just got to make it to the next meal, or the next day or the next week. But it's like, in those times where you're like, this really sucks, like just shorten your horizon and be like, cool, like I'm just gonna get through here. Like I can do that. Let me do that. And I'll worry about what's next when I can down the road. Like I don't need to worry about that right now. Like let me stay focused, like keep it in front of you. You know, that's a hockey thing, right? Keep it in front of you. Just keep play and keep it right in front of you.
I like the shorten your horizon thing. I do that with the gym all the time because I love to play hockey. I love to play pickleball, but sometimes like the gym motivation feels absent. Like it can feel boring and monotonous, but I know it's valuable to those other ends, right? Of being stronger in hockey and then just overall like feeling good. And I think that's been so relevant for me of just like, okay, I think about this whole workout that I could do, and I'm like, this doesn't feel good at all. And then I'm like, but what if you just went there and maybe stretched for 10 minutes and said you were just going to walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes and then you were just going to sit in the sauna for 10 minutes? Well, that feels manageable. And usually every time I just scale that mountain, by the time I'm there, there's enough inertia that some of those workouts are the best workouts I've ever done, right? So yeah, I think that's a really cool, like, I've been thinking a lot lately about this idea of like being like the president of yourself or like the CEO of yourself, or like that seat of self that Singer talks about, or the Atman in yoga. It's like that true nature that's tucked behind all these things. The mind, the heart, the somatics of the body, they're all like your advisors. You know, if you're the president, right, you've got your secretary of state, you got your, you know, financial person, you got your, you know, environmental person, and you have to take into advisement all these things. But you're the president for a reason, right? Like you're exactly, like you're the one who signs on the dotted line. So I think using, right, and this is why, you know, all these practices are so wonderful, because you become more intimately aware of those things, but that they are just advisors. They're not running the show. Because for most of us, the mind runs the show, or every time we're hungry, that runs the show, right? So it's like, how do you take into advisement, like, yes, I'm hungry, but I know if I fast a little bit longer, like I'll feel really good about that first meal. You know what I mean? And then like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I don't know. That's just something I've been thinking about a lot.
Yeah,
take it all in, but don't let it run the show.
Yeah, data points. What are all the data points, and then plot the graph. I use that a lot too practically in business when you get it, because you could ask 3 people, 5 people the same question, and who have gotten to like where you want to go. For example, in business, like 5 people give you 5 different strategies that all worked for them. It's like you have to decide, or one person could be like, no, don't do this, and the other person's like, well, don't do that, do this. It's like, well, what am I supposed to do?
I'm doing that with my hiring process right now. Like I literally am like, because I, like, full disclosure, like I've spent over $100K, which isn't a lot in some business, but as a solopreneur, it's a lot of friggin' money. And you know, it's a lot of things that haven't worked, you know, and I've gotten my MBA along the way.
Right.
But now it's more like the slow burn of like, okay, let's meet. Let's actually feel this out. Like, how do I feel about working with you? What would your strategies be? Let me sit with that. See how that feels. Like, that's a much more, you know, because I think a lot of times, I know I've been guilty of the silver bullet. You know, the same thing I teach people not to do with food, or not to do with dopamine from a cell phone. Like, you just want to feel it and feel better right away. It's like, I want somebody to solve like my sales and marketing enigma, so I can just go off and teach and facilitate and be the guy I want to be.
Right.
And I'm leaving behind that part of myself that I tell people to tap into all the time. Right. So even in business, especially in business. I mean, Singer grew all these, multi-billion with a B, like businesses, and all he wanted to do was meditate in the woods. Just like, and I think I'm at the part of the book now where, you know, he's now interfacing with a lot of different people, and there's a lot on the line, right? So that's again now where I think the advisory board starts to come in of himself, right? He's got to manage, like, yes, he's still anchored in spiritual practices, but he's got to grow a business and take care of his employees and all this kind of other stuff. Like, that is all now on the table, you know?
There's something about that analogy, I think, for the internal operations of yourself, of being the CEO of yourself, that is really intriguing. I'm just kind of sitting with it, like, because I feel like it's a great framework to think about how you interact with the world and what you're doing and how you're spending your time and your days. Because most of us, like, are we even aware? It's like, who's the employee that's really in charge? Like, who's really in charge? Because if you're not in charge, it means that somebody else, some part of you is in charge. And usually, like you said, it's gonna be that prefrontal cortex. It's gonna be that fight or flight. It's gonna be that think. It's gonna be that survival mode. That's our natural operating system. So what is your natural, like, what is your baseline operating system? Who are you taking orders from right now? And if it's not from yourself, then like, what part of you is actually driving you, and how can you bring in the other components perhaps to help at the boardroom make the decisions of what you're going to do?
Yeah.
Because you have to constantly be like, it is that delay of dopamine. It's that instant gratification versus delayed gratification. It's thinking about your future self as well. Bring your future self to the seat at the table, because your future self, you know, right now doing this assault bike training sucks, but I know that my future self is going to feel so good after. So like, his voice has to be really present right now at the table, because otherwise my current self is gonna be like, no, I'm out. Ice bath, same thing, right? Like 100%. You have to bring their future self to the seat at the table.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting sort of thing of like how we balance all the advisors, right? It's and that, but I think all roads always point back to the self-awareness component. I mean, this has been,
yes, it does.
This has been my ethos in building my business and working with people over the last, you know, decade, is like, you know, I always laugh, like, I've been guilty of going down all the rabbit holes of biohacking and trying to learn everything there is to learn. And then I had a funny moment just like a couple weeks ago where something was telling me to eat citrus after I was having meals. And I can remember being like young and going out for like Asian food, and they would serve citrus afterwards. And I always feel like Asian people, I don't know, I just inherently I'm like, they probably know what they're talking about. Their societies are older, they just seem more in tune with that kind of stuff, whatever. But I was like, let me just do a fun experiment. Let me just Google like, you know, the benefits or is this good? And literally like 50%, like this is the best thing you can do. It's amazing. The settling the stomach, satiation, all this kind of stuff. And then on the other side is like, no, acid reflux and it messes with your gut biome and all that. And it's like coffee, same thing, right? Half are on one side, half are on the other. And I'm like, I love Huberman to death, but it's like, it always feels like the science of it depends, you know what I mean? Because it's all roads back to the self-awareness component because I was vegan for 10 years and I did pretty good with that. And then I also did carnivore for a while. Like I was in a healing journey of something and like that really helped. And then now it's like, I just balance eating whole foods. I try not to eat processed stuff out of packages. Like that's pretty much my whole ethos now, you know, and I'm not calorie counting anymore. And it's like, I think there's different seasons of us. And I think again, like if we always like when we do retreats, it's like, here's a buffet of things that took me from A to B and why it helped me. And just walk up to the buffet and take a scoop and try and sample. And then so when you go back home, like you don't have to eat all these things dogmatically. You can really self-subscribe sort of to whatever, you know, makes the most sense for you.
I think that's brilliant. And I remember the first retreat that I went on, the Wim Hof method retreat in Iceland. I was, you know, my mind was blown. My life was blown wide open. And I remember being like, okay, well, like I got to do this breath work every day, or like, what's the prescription? And I asked Joran.
Everybody wants to
Everyone
know.
wants to know. And I know. And I asked Joran, who was the instructor, the facilitator, who I'm going next week to lead 2 retreats in Iceland with.
Nice.
And
look at that.
I know.
I mean, look at the synchronicity of that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Who's become an absolute brother and friend in my life and mentor. I mean, he's who I've learned breath work from in a big way. And he told me, he was like, you know, you have to feel when it's right. I was like, that's such a bullshit answer. Like, tell me, like, is this every day? Is this like 3 times a week? Is this and he's just like, use it like when you need it. And I'm like, I remember being like so pissed off at that answer. Like you're not going to give me the prescription, but there was like so much wisdom in that. And that's something that I really take with me. And because I think that the goal is building that level of self-awareness to know, what do I need and when do I need it? How am I feeling? Okay, cool. I feel a little bit off. Like, what can I do to be able to influence my state of being? What tool can I give myself from this buffet when I'm a little hungry, but I'm feeling hungry I want the guac right now. Like, let me get some of that guac.
Yeah.
And that I think has been, at least for me and the work that I'm doing with people and retreats, it's like, that's the goal of building that level of awareness and that body wisdom and awareness.
And I think that's why it's frustrating for people who are in the world of wellness. And I see it with folks that their heart is in such a good place of really wanting to help and take people on, you know, sort of their journey though, right? Of like what they were struggling with to where they got. And I think, you know, Tony Robbins talks about the coaching space and the wellness space as like being bridge builders, you know, like you're always like, you're one step ahead of where that next person behind you is and you want to help them get across. And I think what frustrates people is like trying to tell somebody that you have all of the answers. I mean, this is why like I've had struggles in marketing because it's like, I'm looking for that silver bullet. Yeah. I'm looking for that, like, tell me exactly what to do. And it's not that. It's a working ecosystem, right? It's because 3 years ago, I wanted somebody that could sell 10 retreats for me a year. And now I want to transition more into just different types of community spaces and give stuff and just give, like do events and do workshops and do things. And like I had a virtual breathwork last night and people were like, hey, like where can we donate? I'm like, awesome. I don't want your money. I'm like, I want to do this every couple of weeks. And like, I just want you to come and enjoy it and get a lot out of it and let the rest kind of fall, you know? So, I think, you know, if you're in the world of wanting to be better, right? Whatever that looks like for you, just be infinitely curious about yourself, right? First and foremost, and then allow teachers, yes, to bring their tools and to bring their things to help you. But the same way you wouldn't use a hammer on every single thing, right? You'd want to be able to be self-aware enough that you knew when it was time to pick the thing that you needed. And if somebody's advocating that for you, then I would say, keep going, you know, and if they're telling you they always have the answer for you, it's like, I'd just be a little skeptical.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's really good because I think we can oftentimes mistake the tool itself for like the way, but it's like the tool, it's not like about like, okay, yeah, like breath work. Let's say breath work's a great example. It's like breath work is, let's call it a hammer. And it's a powerful tool that can do a lot. You can do a lot with the hammer, but it's like, but sometimes you need a screwdriver.
Yeah.
And if you try to like use a hammer on a screwdriver for a job that you need a screwdriver, or a wrench, like you don't, it's not for everything. And so rather than being like, yes, like hammer is always, it's like, how about the awareness for when, what the hammer, yes, and how can I use the hammer, but when do I need the hammer, and when do I need other tools perhaps that could be a little bit more effective, and that inner curiosity leads you to those other tools.
Yeah, and even just setting like a GPS coordinate of like, if you're wanting to heal, if you're wanting to, you know, be more calm, be more present, be more self-aware, just by bringing that in, like to your awareness, is going to start to shift and create opportunities for you to connect with the right opportunities and with the right people and with the right space.
Absolutely.
So if you're not there, or you feel like you're as far away as anybody can be from it, like, just allow yourself some grace of like, okay, I know this is a part of what I want to do. And it's like, you know, a gratitude practice. If you do gratitude at the end of the day, right, you just pick like 3 things to be grateful for. You're going to start to look throughout the course of the day. It's like shopping for a car. You know, it's like if you're picking a red sedan and the specific model, you're going to start to see it on the road everywhere. And that's not by mistake. It's just you're aware of it now. Right. And so I think if that's like, if nothing else, like I would advocate for people of like, if you're wanting to get somewhere, just start bringing that into your thought process. So good. And don't be looking for it, you know, on Instagram or how anybody else did it. Like, give yourself some time to just sit and process through like what feels good for you. Because I know fit people that lift weights, but I know fit people that never lift weights. I know fit people that are vegan, and I know fit people that only eat steak. Like, you know, like there is no one way up the mountain, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the phrases that have really shaped me in my journey is when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
For sure.
And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I've seen that time and time again in my life, like every single time. Like that's been the story, literally the story of my life. And so there's something really brilliant about what you said about bringing in of just like, I don't know where exactly or what I'm looking to go, but like I have a general idea. It's kind of like fuzzy over here, but like this is what and getting clear on that of like, okay, it's something over here. Like, okay, God, the universe, like, show me the way. Then it's like, boom, the right person comes, or the algorithm feeds you something. Or
100%. I think one of my favorite expressions, like Joe Dispenza says, like, be clear about how you want to feel, like, and have a clear intention towards an outcome. But then just like, it's not your business how it's going to happen. Like, I love when he says that, because it's like, we want to know, just like this health and wellness journey. It's like, we want to know all the specific steps, right? So we emulate people, or we follow. And again, those can be great things to inspire you along your journey, but you've got to do the self-awareness part. And it can be meditation. I think that's an incredible tool, but it can be just going for a walk, or just taking time away from distraction with nature, whatever, so that those right opportunities and things can just bubble up more, you know. And then the path to it isn't going to be so cause and effect or logical. It's going to be, you're going to meet someone, you're going to be in the right place at the right time, and you're gonna be like, oh, yes, this is exactly it. Like, I'm sure when your teachers have arrived, it hasn't been like a question of if it was right or not.
You feel it fully right away. I have a question for you. It's, if John today could go back to his former self, that he was like in survival mode to get to Friday, and then day and a half of partying, binging, and then doing it all again, what advice would you give to John, or to someone that is in that loop of like, I just am trying to get through the week and I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what's next? What's your advice?
I mean, quite simply, just to trust yourself, because I think, again, the doubting component, or the comparative, you know, component of like comparing myself to other people or their journeys, it's just like to really fully live in whatever it is that you're doing. Because again, some of those really spiritual people could be the people you play hockey with, or it could be, you know, it can be found in so many different ways. I think the amount of times I've spent questioning what I was doing and why I was doing, you know, like doubting myself, it's such a debilitating thing. I mean, I think so many people struggle with, you know, even when they're meditating, am I doing this right? Or, you know, whatever. I always point back to that. Have you ever seen the chart? I'm sure you have, of like the emotional kind of frequencies. You know, when people feel a certain way, they actually literally create electromagnetic field, and it's like love is like really high, and then like 3,000% higher than that is authenticity, right? When people are just really, that's why people who like, I think, can eat bacon and eggs and smoke cigarettes every day can also live to 100. Like, I just don't think they're doubting themselves, you know, and epigenetics kind of sprinkles some, you know, science into that of like, it is a nature versus nurture, where like nurture, I think is really, like they say it's high as like 90 something percent of like, that's actually what's controlling how you adapt and mutate. But man, like if you really just feel, because I've met people who started businesses doing stuff that seems so wacky and so crazy, or they just loved to dance or whatever it was, and they just invested in that they were doing what they were supposed to be doing, and all the right doors.
Yeah.
You know, like when Singer goes out into the woods to meditate, he has no freaking clue that he's like, I was driving here today and it was such a wonderful moment of just like, man, I'm going to have this story to tell of like this corporate life, but it's, you know, a friggin' Thursday in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And I'm driving down these palm tree lined streets, looking at the ocean, getting ready to do something that I'm really excited about. Like that version of me who's like, would have never, hopefully maybe would have believed, but
beautiful.
you know, like I always wanted to be in California. I always wanted to live this kind of different life than I knew I was that round peg in square hole. I'm like, holy crap. Like, here it is.
Here it is.
You know,
it's now.
amazing.
That's so, and it's so easy to be like, because now you're here, it's like the next and the next. And so I love that moment of realization as you're coming down.
And just
like,
trusting that every like thing that's put in your path has a reason.
How do you let go of that doubt? If you're someone that's living in that doubt, how do you let go of that doubt?
That's a great question. I would say the litmus test of the feeling, right? Like when you are in a job that you do not like and you know it does not serve you, and you're interfacing with a lot of people and a boss and all that stuff that you don't enjoy, or your relationship is toxic. And, you know, we hold on to things. We hold on to things because we need the stability of the finances, or we need sort of know the outcome is more predetermined. I know it takes a lot of freaking guts, but it's like, if you can really trust that, and even again, if you just set the GPS coordinates, like I'm not happy in this job, I don't want to be here anymore, but you still give your best effort to it for as long as you need to give. So then it just will open up opportunities for you to pivot. It will. Like I didn't expect to get fired from that job.
Right.
Like that wasn't why I took a huge pay cut to go there. But if none of that, and in that moment, there's no part of me that was like, oh, this is all for a reason. Like it was, woe was me. This sucks. I'm getting fired. And as soon as I stepped out of the office, I was like, oh my God, I'm free. Like and now I can just open myself up to whatever. So again, if you just set a coordinate of like, yes, I'm not happy where I am right now, but I want to shift and I want to go in a different direction, the opportunities will start to arise.
That's so good.
Yeah.
The other, as I pose that question, the other thing that came through is that look to what area of your life you don't have doubt, because oftentimes like you could have doubt around something. It's like, or my job or my career, it's like I'm doubting myself here, but it's like there's somewhere in your life that you're not doubting yourself. Maybe it's in your sport, maybe it's in your art, maybe it's in your friendships, relationships.
Just do that thing more.
And bring your energy towards where you feel certainty, because you feel doubt over here,
because it's feelings that attract experiences, right? So if you are spending more time with that person that makes you feel that certain, like I have anchors when I meditate, like certain people, my dogs, like things that if I just think of them in real time, my body is having a subjective experience that it's happening to me in real time.
Cool.
And then the more that I feel that way, I constantly interface with things that start to match that. And there's really good, you know, studies in quantum mechanics and laws of attraction that if you just spend more time feeling the way you want to feel, you just start to match that in your environment.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah. And there's going to be clues there too, perhaps. And you make that more of your dominant vibration, then it's going to attract those other things.
Yeah. I remember like when I got to California, like my brother was a really good surfer, and I always felt self-conscious that I wasn't a good surfer. And so like I bought a board out here and I started going, and I just didn't enjoy it. Like I just was like doing it because like I kind of thought like maybe I would enjoy it or whatever. And it's like, and I just did it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's like, that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be that California surfer guy. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's like, man, I put so much pressure on myself to like, over the years, just fit into certain things that I thought I should be. rather than like find the moments where you don't doubt. Like every time I go do this thing with this person, or every time I meditate, even though sometimes I struggle to like actually do it, it starts to affect how I feel, and it
Yep.
starts to affect the synchronicities and the things that are happening. Those are the, like you said, I love the breadcrumbs. It's like those are the little winks from the universe that like you're on the right track.
So
and if you
good.
can interface with those things without worrying about money or the outcome or like getting somewhere, just being enjoying doing it, man, you will start to see those wins pile up.
I love it.
And then your work and your relationships, they can all reflect that same energy. And then you're really onto something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of bending time, John,
we did bend some time.
We did bend some time. I want to thank you, brother, for coming on, sharing yourself and your authenticity. Something I appreciate a lot about you. So thanks for coming on and sharing this, and excited to see what this evolution of this chapter here for you, and to be in fellowship together as we continue building community and sharing and spreading the good word. So it's been a blast, man. Thank you.
I appreciate that, and I reflect that back to you. And I, one of the things that I loved when I first met you is you were doing those sunrise social clubs, and you weren't asking for a single dollar, but you were opening up your space. You were getting the ice early in the morning, and I will tell you that inspired me, man. It was really inspiring to see a person just give without asking. And so that's, like I said to you before this, like that's something I'm really stepping into. But that was a seed planted where I was like,
that's awesome.
This guy just wants to do this because it's like a cool thing and people can latch onto it. And the proof is in all the people that would come to those things.
Right.
They knew that was authentic from you.
That's beautiful.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, brother. Until next time.